Good morning. I'm Clint Peak. I'm with Top Tunes. I'm here with my good friend Tom Taylor, who I met at church. One morning at church, we were talking about the movie The Founder,
That's right.
starring Mike Keaton. Great story about Ray Kroc and the backstory of that. And Tom mentioned having worked for Ray Kroc during the latter years of his life, and he's got a really cool story to tell you about McDonald's. So, welcome, Tom. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Yeah,
Tell me your story.
13 years with McDonald's, and 2 of those years I got to work directly with Ray Kroc,
That's cool.
which was very
Yeah.
interesting. Quick side note about Ray: he came in the store all the time, and I never saw him eat anything but French fries, and he always ate French fries every time he came in, and he was he could tell you if the oil wasn't hot enough.
Yeah.
He could tell you if the oil was too old. He could tell you if the fries were thawed before they were put in, just by the taste.
I love it.
And so our restaurant probably had the best fries in the world.
And where were you? And where
San
were you?
Diego.
San Diego.
Yep. And he bought the San Diego Padres, and he moved from Chicago to San Diego.
Right.
Him and his wife. And so he was, at that time, he was probably CEO of the company, but he wasn't actively running the company. The board of directors were, and those people. And so he came in one day and beat his cane on the counter and said, "Tom, we're going to turn those golden arches on at 6 o'clock in the morning, and people are going to flock in here like it's an oasis." And I said, for 25 years we'd opened at 10:30. And I said, 6 o'clock? What are we going to serve them? And this is how this man thought. We'll put donuts in the Wall Street Journal out, and they'll flock in here. And
Donuts, maybe Wall Street Journal, maybe not.
That's it, And he goes, and I said, "Well, Ray, there's a place called Dunkin' Donuts that already does that. And they ain't lined up." And he goes, "Oh, no, this will be different." And I said, "Okay." I didn't want to work at 6 o'clock.
Right. 5:30, you didn't
I
get
was
the
thinking,
store open early, yeah.
oh my gosh, we got to be open from 6 to 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, I said, "Well, Ray, we got a grill. We can make them pancakes." He goes, "Yeah, we'll make them pancakes."
That sounds just like him because I've seen a lot of video of him. Yeah.
That's what
He was an
"Yeah,
excitable
we'll
guy,
make 'em
wasn't he?
pancakes. He was very excitable. And sure enough, in a couple of weeks, we were having breakfast. And in a few months, McDonald's Corporation was having breakfast.
Yeah.
Then he came to me and he said, "I want to build a Ronald McDonald Land Park." And he goes, "Corporation doesn't want anything to do with it, so we're going to do it here." So we bought this trailer park next door to the McDonald's and brought in trees from Australia, brought in waterfalls, fountains, music system throughout the whole park, built his own playgrounds with fiberglass, Hamburglar and
Right.
and all the characters.
What year?
That was in
what time frame were we
73,
talking about? So
70
early 70s.
73, 74.
So McDonald's as a corporation at that time was probably, as far as with Ray's involvement, was maybe 10 or 12 or 15 years old. Is that?
They started in 55.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, roughly 20 years.
Yep. And so it took about 5 months to build this thing. Mainly because Ray would walk in and see a crack in the sidewalk and tear the whole sidewalk up and redo it.
He was anal that way, wasn't
Yeah.
he? Cleanliness and
everything had to be exactly right. It was his buck, so
yeah,
he could do that.
yeah, exactly.
Well, we were about 18 miles from the Mexican border, from Tijuana. And after we opened the park, we had a whole flood of the Mexican residents would come up to go to the mall across the street and shop. Well, they dropped their kids off at our park and then go over and shop.
Right.
And then they'd come back and buy them a sandwich and drink and stuff and leave. Well, the problem was the kids were in the park and they were hungry and thirsty.
Right.
And so I suggested to Ray that we make a sack lunch for the kids that they have to buy the kids when they drop them off.
Right.
And he said, "Well, I don't want to make people buy something. The park's free." And I said, "Well, this will be good for the kids. It'll be good for the parents.
Right.
They don't have to come back and feed their kids after they get back from shopping. They can pick them up and leave."
Right.
And he goes, "Okay, we'll give them a special price, though." I said, "Okay." So we put in a hamburger and a fry and a cookie and a drink. And they bought it up like crazy because they were saving money.
Right.
and the kids were already fed. They were going to feed them anyway.
Right.
And there was a girl that we had assigned to the park to where she walked around, took care of everything, and so she made sure the kids' food wasn't disturbed by somebody else, and it worked out very well.
Right.
And then Ray said, "We need to do this all the time," but we didn't have advertising to put a sign up or anything or like that. So he went back to the corporation. I believe this is the story. He never told me what he did, but he went back to this corporation and told marketing about it, and they called Mattel, and Mattel said, "How many toys you want?" Because they wanted to put a toy in it.
Right.
And they said $1 million a month. 1 million toys a month. And Mattel said fine. So then the marketing department came up with the Happy Meal. And so I consider myself the founder of the Happy Meal,
Right.
but Ray's the founder of the
Right.
Happy Meal, not me.
Right.
I just came up with the idea and he ran with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then one day he came in and he goes, "The corporation doesn't want a drive-through, but I want a drive-through." I said, "Why do you want a drive-through?" He goes, "In-N-Out has one." So I said, "Well, we don't have room." He goes, "Oh no, I've had an architect come out and he's designed it. We've got room." Because I didn't think our parking lot had the room for it.
They can
And-
squeeze them in, can't
Oh,
they?
yeah, anywhere.
They still do that all these
Yeah.
years later.
And so, sure enough, it wasn't a year later we had a drive-through, and all corporations
Yeah.
started having a drive-through. The guy just had a mind for
He
business.
did, didn't he?
He knew that breakfast was the future, and the corporation didn't believe him,
Right.
and took him to do it.
Right.
Now, any other franchise couldn't have done any of that.
Right. Yeah.
They have
Ray,
to
Ray had a
follow-
little,
they
Ray had
have
a
to
little
fo-
clout, didn't
They
he?
have to follow the corporate rules.
Yeah.
Ray didn't have to follow the corporate rules.
Right.
He got what do they say? He got forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah. We do a lot of that around here, by the way. So I see you were looking for
Oh,
some
yeah.
photos, and that was back in the day. We didn't take as many photos
No.
and have cameras.
In fact,
but
the
you've got
photo
your-
I had was one of those. Comes out the
of the Polaroid. That you
Polaroids
shook-
that comes out, yeah. And I have about 5 of those of me and Ray, and I couldn't find them.
Yeah, you will. You
But
will.
I will, yeah.
He's got a ring here.
This is my 10-year ring.
Here, well, I'll come over closer to the camera so you can see Tom's 10-year ring with McDonald's. Now, you know what? Ray Kroc has always been one of those guys that, even a young person that I said, because I remember the first McDonald's coming to my hometown in Mount Vernon, Illinois, and it came in about that time frame that you're talking about there. Probably, I was in high school, and I think I just started driving, so somewhere around 74, 75. I
Okay.
remember it was on kind of the other side of town, which
So you had to
wasn't
drive
that,
to get
wasn't
there.
that far drive, but I remember at lunch, everybody, it really hurt the Burger Barn's business.
Oh, yeah.
The Burger Barn you could walk to, the kids that could drive drove out to McDonald's because that was awful cool. But just knowing the story, and then the night that the founder was released, June 20th, or July 20, no, January 20th, a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, my mother and I went opening night. I was just anxious to see that movie. It's the first movie and the only movie my mother and I ever went
Gone
to
together.
together. Yeah, she's went with all the other siblings, but her and I never went. I was the youngest person in the theater, by the way. That night. And I was in my late 50s at that time, but I was the youngest. But and they took some liberties with that movie. If you watch the movie The Founder, and I encourage anybody that hasn't seen it to do it, and my daughter bought it for me one year for Father's Day.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a copy of that. There was I don't, because Ray was a bit of a, he had a harsher side than,
Yes, he did.
I'm not going to say he was a bad guy or a bitter guy or any of that, but he had a blunt, straightforward size, and so not all of it was roses, but
No.
the movie, unfortunately, in my opinion, knowing quite a bit of the backstory, and you might agree with this, they kind of almost went out of their way to make him even look harsher or a little bit
absolutely.
harder than what he really was. Like the money thing.
Yeah.
The money thing in that never happened.
No.
They got the McDonald's brothers were not necessarily really pleased with him in departing, but
Well,
the way the movie portrayed, like he took
the way the movie portrayed is that he took advantage of the brothers.
right.
But the brothers made more money than
Oh,
they ever
absolutely.
would have
Right.
running that McDonald's.
Right, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Way more. I
Unbelievable
mean,
money.
they retired multimillionaires at
And
the time.
he made that
Right.
happen.
Right.
They didn't.
No.
He
He
didn't
was a
steal anything
visionary,
from
and you know that even then because I don't want to get too far away from the story, and we all know how that we all
Ends
know
up, yeah.
McDonald's, but the kids that they and then the kids, excuse me, the grandkids never held any hard will against them, and was it perfect? No, and was it a divorce in the end? That was
It was bitter.
Yeah, but the movie portrayed like he took advantage and lied to him and stuff, and I did some research, and to the best of my ability, some of that stuff never happened.
He was very angry with them.
Right.
because
And they were
of what
angry with him.
Yeah.
I mean, they were holding him down.
He told me
And-
that he
yeah.
was very angry with them because they made him come up with all those millions of dollars.
Right.
And he had to do things he didn't want to have.
Well, you
to
know
do.
what they did to him, and I'm not trying to pick good guy, bad guy, because to
Right.
me they're all successful guys
Absolutely.
and they're all gone. But they'd already sold the franchise rights to someone else.
Mhm.
When they sold it to him, they were selling him something that had already sold to someone else, and he had to go buy that person out. He didn't know that. So, and
He
I'm
was-
not defending anybody
No.
or trying to make
He was
anybody.
pretty upset about that, and
anybody
that was
bad.
one of the reasons why he opened a McDonald's across the street from the original
Right.
McDonald's,
Right.
just out of spite.
Have you ever heard the song? Have you ever heard the Mark Knopfler song called "Boom Like That"? You ever heard that?
Don't think
We'll
so.
have to play it before we leave. And it's Mark Knopfler, who's a great Dire Straits.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And it's. I'm surprised they probably couldn't afford it, but it should have been the soundtrack because it's just a nice long 5-minute Mark Knopfler type song that just covers it all. And he mentions
kidding.
going to open one up right across the street and talk about the hose in the mouth. And if you're drowning, would you put a hose in your mouth? Yeah. And McDonald said no. He goes, well, I could.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't, nor why
Nor
would I want to?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming by and sharing the story. Since you shared that with me a few months ago on a Sunday morning, I've been excited to get you in here, and so thank you so much. For
I was
coming and
fortunate
sharing the
enough
story.
to work at McDonald's during the early 70s when they were opening up a McDonald's
Every
every day
day.
of the week
every day,
somewhere.
every day.
And I opened the first McDonald's in El Centro. I was part of the opening the first McDonald's in Yuma, first McDonald's in Cottonwood, first McDonald's at the Grand Canyon, second McDonald's in Flagstaff. And so I had the opportunity to go into a town that just got so excited about
Right.
getting their
Oh,
first
they were.
McDonald's.
It was a big deal.
And I'd put out a day of taking applications, and I'd have 500 people show
Yeah,
up
it was
for
a
60
big deal.
jobs.
Some of
You
the
know?
younger guys you see can't see behind the scenes, can't see. Well, it would be like In-N-Out Burger became then
Yes.
later on when In-N-Out would show up
into
in
town.
town. I mean, my
It was a
goodness,
big
you
deal.
couldn't get in the parking lot for
Yep.
a week. And
Well, I want to tell you a story about
Yeah.
how I started at McDonald's.
yeah, okay,
The first McDonald's I ever saw or heard of, I applied at. And I was 17 years old. Because I came from a little town in Spencer, Iowa. And we didn't have a McDonald's and we didn't have the advertising to see McDonald's.
right,
So I moved to Des Moines. My senior year in high school, my family moved to Des Moines area. And my sisters lived in Des Moines, and they told me, Tom, you ought to go work for McDonald's. And I go, what's McDonald's? They go, it's a restaurant, fast food restaurant. It's all guys working there.
yeah, it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
all guys.
And I said, okay, so I put on a 3-piece suit and went down and applied. Now, in 13 years, no one's ever applied in a 3-piece
So
suit.
was that kind
in
of
front
a
me.
lime green color of some kind? Because that was
Probably-
pretty popular. at
Probably
that
a lime
time.
green, yeah. Or peach. But anyway, the guy hired me, and the only reason he hired me is because I was a wrestler. And he used to be a wrestler, and the manager.
And you were the only guy that showed up with the
With the
lime
3-piece
green,
suit, yeah.
lime green three-piece
And
suit
so
too.
they didn't have, they weren't saying they were taking applications. I just walked in and asked for an application.
Mm-hmm.
And I met with the manager, and we talked mostly about wrestling. And 2 days later, he called me and says, you're hired, come on in. And for the first month, I peeled and sliced 300 pounds of
There you go.
potatoes. And every other day, I made 50 gallons of tartar sauce. And that was my career at McDonald's to start. And he told me, he says, Tom, he says, you're not going to be with us very long. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, oh, you're too
ambitious.
and yeah, you won't
Yeah.
be happy here for
Yeah.
long. Well, 13 years later, I left.
He was sort of right then, wasn't he? You're just a slow learner.
That's right. Very slow.
That was funny. This is fun. We're going to start this again. Thank you, Tom, for being here. It's
You're
great.
very welcome,
I appreciate
Clint.
it very
I appreciate
much.
you having me.
I'll see you Sunday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if I find those pictures, I'll bring them
Please
back.
do. Well, we can always add them in after.
There you
the
go.
fact. Thank you so much.
You bet.